I think the inner work of leadership is tending to your own vibrational field and taking responsibility for our wholeness. All life is tuning into our bodies and tuning into our yeses and nos and trusting our body awareness of our yeses and nos. When I see people living not in a full body yes kind of way, in my experience, that's breeding ground for resentment or martyrdom. A big part of living with integrity is knowing when agreements no longer serve you and proactively changing them. Nobody teaches people how to do this. The postdoc in integrity is proactively changing agreements that don't work for you anymore. For many of us, there's a sense of unraveling. What I've got is my 3 feet of influence. The vibration that I show up with really makes a big difference. I do believe we have the capacity to evolve, but I think it happens in community. I do think we need each other as mirrors. You don't have to do it alone. Find your people.
Hi, everyone. It's a beautiful day because I'm here with Becky Margiotta, and we're here to talk about her book, Impact with Integrity, which I absolutely love. Becky is the co-founder of the Billions Institute, and she's trained thousands of people on how to address some of the world's largest problems. So thank you for being here today, Becky.
Thank you for having me, Victoria. I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you.
So an inner calling could be a whisper, an intuition, but something that leads you home to yourself. Tell us about a time you had an inner calling and what happened when you followed it.
I mean, the trajectory of my life has been from following inner callings. And one that is still alive for me was in March of 2021. I took my son camping out by the Eastern Sierras. And it was so spacious. We still wore masks outside. That's how that time was, right? And I came back home to a home I love and a family I love and a partner I loved. But when I came back into the house, the curtains had been drawn and the windows were closed and the air wasn't moving. And I felt claustrophobic in my own life. And it was such a contrast to being out with my son. And something deep inside me, it was very, very painful. It's the most painful inner calling that I've had. Most of the rest are like, that would be fun, but this one was profoundly painful. This kind of really heavy energy pushing down on my heart and my body, and this scary, deep knowing of like, I need my life to have more aliveness in it.
Oh, wow.
I need more erotic energy in my life. I don't know what that's going to look like, but what ended up happening, it led to the unraveling of a 10-year marriage. And I definitely did some things I would do differently with that. I think I was like, well, the marriage is the problem, right? And now I really see it's my responsibility to be a source of erotic energy in my life, right? But that led me to yet another round of EMDR therapy for some childhood trauma.
Wow.
It led me to plant medicine. It led me to the community that I feel really deeply involved in now. It led me to another one of your guests on your podcast, Nancy.
Yeah.
It led me to this cabin that I'm in up in Lake Arrowhead. It opened up so many other avenues in my life. And the good news is I actually still have probably a better relationship with my co-parent than I did when we were married. That has a lot more aliveness too. But that was the most painful inner calling of my whole life. By far.
One of the things I love about your book is you talk about just the body knowing, like your full body knowing things. You don't call it inner calling, but it's the same thing, this knowing deep inside you. So after following this inner calling, did it shift things for how you think of leadership?
Well, I was just finishing up Impact with Integrity. It was about a 2.5 year project writing it. I finished writing it that fall. So one of the things that shifted as I've turned inward and taken responsibility, which is self-leadership for what I believe is cultivating a more erotic life and more intimacy. I thought the pandemic was bad, but really the world accelerated, it seems like, in entropy, right? In some, I guess, civic unraveling, not just in the United States, but in many places globally. Now, that doesn't mean there's also not wonderful, amazing things happening concurrently. But I think for people living in the US, especially for many of us, there's a sense of unraveling. The thing that has shifted in me is as I've turned my attention towards self-leadership and being more of a source of the vibration that I want to be putting out in the field, I will say although I'm absolutely willing to help anybody anywhere who's doing something to try to make the world a better place,
Hmm.
I no longer feel compelled to do that in an outward tending way, the way I did previously.
Oh,
I
interesting.
I don't feel the weight of the world on my shoulders, even though I know there's a lot of pain and suffering. I know there's also a lot of bliss and joy, that it's all happening. It's all part of this plane of existence. I will show up for my neighbors. I will show up for what I believe in. Absolutely. But I'm not on the drama triangle
Hmm.
with the news. Stipulated, it's bad. I'm not debating that and I'm not trying to be callous.
Right.
And I'm more aware than ever that what I've got is my 3 feet of influence. The vibration that I show up with really makes a big difference. And if I'm showing up on the regular in righteous indignation about the news cycle, that's not changing anything. So
Yeah.
my leadership has become much more local, much more communal, much more self oriented, less institutional, less organizational focused.
That is a trend I am hearing from people in this leadership space. I was talking to Margaret Wheatley, and she was talking about it's not about these working at the big institutional, big problem levels. It's really about what we can do with ourselves and just showing up in our communities. So it's like
Mhm.
this inner movement. Can you talk more about what is the inner work of being a leader?
David Hawkins talks about the difference between force versus power.
Mm.
And I think the inner work of leadership is tending to your own vibrational field. This sounds kind of woo, but I'm just going to own it. I'm just
Hmm.
going to go there.
Yeah.
It's contagious. It matters. We are capable. It's this wonderful, beautiful technology of being a human that I think is this joining of a body and a soul.
Hmm.
And we absolutely can impact the vibration we're vibrating it at. And that ripples out and
Mm.
affects everything. And it's this tantric joining of body and spirit and
Hmm.
heart and mind and taking responsibility for our wholeness. I think of it as harm reduction, almost like when I notice cultivating the ability to notice when I'm not at the vibration I want to be at, when I'm running on adrenaline,
Hmm.
when I'm, got my chest puffy
Yeah.
or when I'm collapsed. And that goes back to David Hawkins's work is when we're in our alignment and when we're in our essence. For me, we're a clear channel for Kundalini, we're a clear channel for spirit, God, whatever your,
Hmm.
you know, cosmology is, whatever words you use. But when I'm in my up down energy and present and my belly is relaxed and my heart is open and my mind feels spacious, we can do anything. Right. But
Yeah.
when I'm contracted or when I'm coercing someone or power over, or you got to do this, or
Yeah.
when I'm in collapse and I'm in the victim and I'm like, they're never going to like me, or the imposter syndrome. Oh my God, everybody I coach has imposter syndrome.
Right.
Like when we're in those places and we're not just all the way up to the edges of ourselves, but when we're like an inch behind ourselves with self doubt or wondering if this is okay, then whatever it is that we're putting forth in the world is
Yeah.
informed by that energy. And I don't think it's going to be as durable and as solid and as weaving the web of life in a way that's supportive of evolution, the
Yeah.
evolution of our species, as if we're doing it from these more contracted places. That said, we're human, we're mammals, we're going to contract. It comes with the territory.
Yeah.
But my intention is to move as much as possible towards leading from that more whole place.
What you're saying really resonates with me because I believe everything is energy. And as a leader, we're here to inspire energy and help people remember that energy that exists in them. And as a leader, especially during a time like this, it's so important to help people remember that space inside themselves.
It's osmosis, right? How
Mhm.
you're vibrating is then going to ripple out and you're osmosing it instead of this, right?
What's really
It's,
shocking is how much wounds affect leadership. And you talk about this in
mhm.
your book, the drama triangle you're just referring to the victim, the villain, the hero. When we lead out of these wounds, what do you see happening to leaders when they lead from that place?
We all do, right? We're all
Hmm.
human, right? We're all walking each other home. We're all doing the best we can. But when we lead from our wounded places, and Stephen Cartman, his work on the drama triangle was like, look, it's not a good story if it doesn't have a, a villain who's doing something wrong, a victim who needs to be rescued, and a hero who comes in and saves the day.
Hmm.
And most of the people that I work with a lot of people in the nonprofit sector and in government. Of course, they're the hero, in these stories, right? And on some level, that's 100% true. But let me give a contrast. Okay. If we're leading from our hero, we see people as not whole, as needing rescuing, as problems to be solved, right? And it's this out in front of ourselves energy, right? It can be a compulsion, right? And so, which is really different from leading as a coach. And think of a coach on a team or an organizational coach, a leadership coach. The coach isn't rushing in to fix something for you. The coach stands beside you and is, I think you could, it's the inspiration you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think you could do that. Or have you seen this thing? I've seen this thing, are you noticing this dynamic? What do you want to do about it? And that is inviting people into their wholeness. And now I want to contrast the villain, right? The villains really is, and you see a lot of this in activist spaces where they're like, that's wrong and that's messed up and I would never do that and no, right? And it's not taking responsibility for the situation. It's putting all the responsibility on someone or something else, or honestly, we even do it about capitalism. You know what I mean? Yeah. You got a better idea. And a lot of times people do, well, let's focus on the better idea. All that villain energy does is just grind up that everyone else being this righteous indignation, but it doesn't make change. And then the last one, the victim. Now, I don't see much of this because when we're working with leadership, we're more in hero or villain. And when I first started learning about this, I was like, that's so weird. I don't have a victim persona. Okay. The victim is running everything, right? That's underneath all the things. You don't get to that till you do this work a little longer and you're like, oh my God, it's running the show.
It's all related to my childhood or something.
Yeah, but these places where we lose agency, where we forget that we're creators. Oh my God, human beings are the most creative species, right? We're so creative. But anytime we lose this knowing of our agency, we go into that victim place. Nothing's going to get led from a victim place. But the near opposite of the victim is the creator. And that can do anything. And we can tell the difference whenever we're in an either or. Well, it's like, well, it's either that or that, or right, which is really different from being able, when we're in our essence, all the fields of possibilities exist. But when we go into our personas, it just calcifies and we're actually reducing the field of possibilities.
How do you coach people let go of these stories, of these personas? It's so hard.
It is. It is hard for me too. I mean, the way that I coach people with them is gently inviting them to notice where they're going out of their essence and bringing curiosity, not making it wrong to have personas, can't not be a mammal, right? But one of the things I learned from my mentor, Katie Hendricks, is to interview people's personas, to really bring loving attention and curiosity. And I think that's the most transformative, magical thing in my experience. Bringing curious, loving presence can transform anything.
It's all about presence, actually. Yeah, it's all about presence and meeting things with a loving presence.
Trying to make it go away, not trying to make it wrong, just being like, what's that trying to do for you?
Because the hero and the victim and the villain are probably trying to help you somehow in their misguided ways.
100%. It's in the parts work, right? It's a younger quasi-dissociated part of yourself being like, hey. And if you're just like, shut up, go away, then it's going to keep tugging harder. But when we can give it our loving attention and be like, hey, what do you really want, right? I think that's the hack. That's the shortcut I teach people is when in doubt, ask yourself or another person if they're acting a fool, okay? Don't be like, why are you acting a fool? Ask, what do you really want? And you have to ask it in a way that's genuinely curious. It can't be like, what do you want? It has to be, oh, what do you actually want? And to ask yourself, what do you actually want? I was just coaching someone about this morning, and it has to be something that you can give yourself, right? It can't be, I want you to stop being a jerk, right? Or I want you to respect me, or blah, 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 blah. Okay, if they respect you, or if they stop being a jerk, then what do you get? And how can you take responsibility for giving that to yourself? That's the key.
Well, let's say I'm being a hero and I'm like doing all the things for my organization. And I just feel like that's what has to be done. What is my hero getting out of that? Oh, I guess it's like getting attention.
Well, can I just offer what I hear when you say that?
Yeah.
It has a wisp of victim too, because it has to be done, right? So victims have, I always joke about like, I have to go to the dentist. I have to eat my vegetables. It's like, do you?
The martyr. There's a little mix of
It's a little bit of
victim
a
martyr in there. Yeah.
but there's I have to run my company, right? We can
Yeah.
have one foot in each, right? So for me, like I think there's some linguistic things that can be really, really helpful too. And I just want to acknowledge my lineage. Like I learned so much of this from Dr. Kathleen Hendricks, and she's just such a somatic wizard, right?
Mhm.
Like I'm choosing to do all these things for my company because I believe in what it's doing and I love it. And I'm making these choices. But then what that's triggering in your mind is like, do I actually really want to choose this? I think we want to talk about yeses and nos. All life is tuning into our bodies and tuning into our yeses
Yeah.
and nos and trusting our body awareness of our yeses and nos. And then we can let go of the story that we have to do this. It's just, I'm just rolling with my yeses and nos.
Yeah. You just summarized your whole book there. It's all about alignment, is what I got out of your book. It's all about aligning yourself with your yeses and nos. And if you have a yes, yes. And if it's a no, it's a no. And I think you wrote
Mhm.
somewhere in there is if it's not a full body yes, then it's a no.
Yep.
I
Yeah,
love
let me
that
tell you
tip.
about
If
that
it's
one.
not a full 100% yes, then it's a no. Can you tell us more about that?
It's another thing I learned from Katie Hendricks. And I was in this 2-year apprenticeship with her in a community of about 40 other people.
Mhm.
And so things, communities, the osmotic power of a peer group, so much transformation and healing just because of the
Mhm.
healing in the group. And I witnessed so many times someone being like, I think I want to go home for the holidays with my parents. And the whole room would be like, boo. No, you don't. We can hear it in your voice. That is not a full body yes. So I witnessed people saying these really vulnerable things like, I think I want to stay with my husband. And people like, that is not even close to a full body yes, you know? And literally people like crying and getting booed, you know? And I was like, and really, I was like, oh man. And so I believe that so strongly. I mean, I guess we need to know what a full body yes it is and what a no is. But I think our bodies know better than our minds. Like our reptilian, million-year-old lizard brain has a lot to offer us and it's instantaneous. One of the first things I started doing was learning how to know the somatic cues of my yeses and nos. And it's different for everybody. But for me, my nos have a French press kind of feeling, like
Mm.
a, and
Sinking.
my yeses, yeah, there's like a,
Yeah.
or just, or sometimes it's just a little, like a little discharge of energy out and back, you know, like throwing salt over my shoulder, you know, I'm like,
What
no.
if it's not a yes or a no? What if it's just no feeling?
Well, then maybe it's just a not yet, you know? Maybe remember those
Oh.
magic 8 balls? Maybe it's just like not now, right? And to stay with that because you could be numbing it somehow, right? And it could just be that it's not the time to know a yes or a
Mm.
no, right? But a yes for me, it's like champagne bubbles coming upward, right? And there's no, it's just
There's no
full body
resistance. It's
yes.
just, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm a yes, I'm in for that, right? And this is really personal for me right now. But when I see people living not in a full body yes kind of way, in a like, well, I don't have a full body yes, but I'll do it.
Yeah.
In my experience, that's breeding ground for resentment
Mm.
or martyrdom or those types of things. And I don't want to do that to myself or any of the fields that I'm in.
What about for those of us who are stuck in a web of past karmic decision that were not full 100% yeses, and you're just like before you at the beginning of the conversation you're talking about the inner knowing, the inner calling that came to you.
Yeah.
You were kind of in that place, weren't you?
Yeah, this is like a whole other chunk of my book, and it's actually one of my favorite things to coach people on is how to change agreements. Just a
Oh,
big part of living with integrity is knowing when agreements no longer serve you and proactively changing them. Nobody teaches people how to do this, right? That's why
yeah.
breakups are so shitty. You know what I mean? Like nobody knows how to say, I mean, I'll just model it. Okay, I know I had previously, this was what we had agreed to, but something's changed for me. And I'm no longer willing to participate in that dynamic. I'm no longer willing to do that thing I said I would do. I'm no longer willing to keep that secret. I'm whatever it was, whether it was explicit or tacit, I'm no longer willing to do that. It's not up to a vote. You know what I mean?
These
It's not,
words are so good.
I know I had agreed to this. I'm not going to gaslight you. Something's changed for me.
Can't do it
I'm
anymore.
no longer, well, I can't do that anymore. But and not but, and
And
I care about you. I love you. I care about this relationship with you. I want to know the impact that has on you. If there's repair that's needed, I want to repair with you. If this is true, it may be like, I
yeah.
never want to see you again.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
But I want to have a clear, I don't want to rack up more karma because of changing this agreement, right? What do you need from me to be in harmony with me with this new
Yeah.
shift? But it's not subject to consensus, right? It's my being, my life, my aliveness. And this is the direction I'm moving in. So I think it's some of the hardest work we have to do. And it builds on yeses or nos. It builds on coming from your essence. You don't want your
Yeah.
persona as changing agreements. You want to be changing agreements from your essence. It builds on a commitment to be revealed rather than to be concealed, right? To being authentic in your relationships and speaking in a way that doesn't have blame or criticism, speaking with authenticity about yourself and your own experience.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's the postdoc in integrity is proactively changing agreements that don't work for you anymore. But on the other side of that is your aliveness.
I love that. I really do. Because you don't hear this very often. You feel like you're stuck in agreements, or you have to do this, or you're being selfish. What you just described, is that self leadership that you were talking about earlier?
Oh, yeah. And so few people do it. So many people
Yeah.
are just caught in
The
these
shoulds and
just
obligations and societal, all the.
and just janky
Mhm.
agreements that don't work for them anymore. And it can be anything from just, hey, like, I don't want to work for the same salary that I used to this marriage isn't working for me, or I don't want to go to run this errand. It can be such a wide variety of thing, but that's self leadership. And I love that you said selfish. I think a lot of people judge that as
Yes.
selfish.
Could you
And
help us understand and discern the difference?
yeah, Diana Chapman has this wonderful handout on radical selfishness. And I received messages as a kid when I was the oldest of 6 kids. And I had thank God, I had a good enough mom who loved me, and I love my mom. And guess what she told me when I didn't want to do whatever
You're
she wanted me to do?
selfish.
She told me I was selfish. And she was like, she called me a prima donna. She's like, you're such a prima donna. And I'd be like, I just don't want to wash the dishes right now. You know what I mean? And so I got messages like,
Yeah.
don't do what you want to do.
Exactly.
That's
That's
selfish.
selfish. Yeah.
And sometimes I was, right? I think that selfishness is or shaming people for selfishness can be perhaps sometimes necessary for the good of the whole, right? Because
Yeah.
we all need each other for things. But I think it's way overused, especially with children. And then they
Yeah.
grow up into adults who just want to do
Shame.
basic things to
Yeah.
take care of themselves. Or it gets co-opted by capitalism to now you've got to be productive for somebody else for the rest of your life, right?
It's
And
so complicated when you say it all.
yes, early indoctrination into like being just
Yeah.
human capital for someone else's profit. So the more people I see just opting out of some of these more extractive ways of participating in the economy or relationships that aren't mutually feeding, each other and nurturing, I'm like, heck yeah, get out of that thing, free yourself up, because I think there's this whole other way of being with each other that's emerging through all of this chaos that is so beautiful and so courageous. But I think it runs on a different operating system, right? There's a balance. I think selfishness gets a really bad rap that we got to reclaim it and come back into balance with it.
Maybe self leadership is something where you empower yourself, and in the process of empowering yourself, you're empowering others around you too.
It can be contagious, right? As like one
Yeah.
person does that, people are like, wait, you can do that? Like I started exploring polyamory. Basically, at one point, my co-parent was like, look, we either open our marriage or we get divorced. And I was like, I guess we're gonna be polyamorous because I don't want to get divorced. And at first I was like, I hate everything about this. And then I was like, well, actually, I didn't know you could do that. My polyamory coach, I had such a bad attitude. I was like, I don't want to be polyamorous. And my coach, Shanae Kendall Jackson, I love this woman. She was like, well, I have a friend who has a vacation ship and they just go on vacation like 2 or 3 times a year. And that's it. And then they just have their lives, but they have these gorgeous vacations
Oh
that
my
are just
God,
erotic
so
and
nice.
beautiful places. And I was like, you can do that? I was like, that sounds good. And so I think as we see these examples of each other
Yeah.
giving ourselves permission to live our best, most fulfilling lives, then that becomes permission for the people around us to do that too,
It's like really permission for people to step into their power. Yeah.
which is scary.
It is scary. Well, it's like that's another thing we don't really learn from society is how to hold power or be in our power. Or like as women, it's almost like kind of scary to be in your power because you don't want to offend people with this power.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You don't want to step on it. You're like, oh, is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's hot when people are in their power, right? Like it's beautiful to see someone
Yeah.
be in their power. It's wonderful to witness. Not power over, just really show up and claim their truth, whatever that may be. It's like, okay.
Who are examples of leaders you would say who are really in their power in a healthy, embodied way?
I'm thinking of like some of these B corporations
Yeah.
that and some of that's a veneer or greenwashing, but I think that some of these businesses, like I remember when Rose Mercurio at Patagonia, like
Yeah.
really trying to find the win 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 for everybody, right?
Right.
And then some of the nonprofit leaders, climate change leaders, education leaders I know who are really advancing different ways of being in the world and different ways of being with each other, different ways of being with the earth and loving the earth. I do a lot of work with some healthcare leaders in the UK and the National Health Service. And there's a real sincerity in showing up in integrity and not wanting to do any harm to anybody anywhere. And just, can we move this thing forward? That always makes me so, so happy. And I think of some of the leaders that I've met in some of the healing spaces
Yeah.
that people wouldn't know their names necessarily, but who are able to show up with tremendous presence in transformative containers.
Yeah.
And especially some of the medicine containers that I've had the privilege of being part of. I see that as really balanced, essence forward leadership.
Are you able to talk about some of your medicine work or what you're doing in that space these days?
I grew up in the 80s with anti-drug education that just scared the bejesus out of me.
Yeah, dare. Yeah.
I was like, I don't want the sky to turn into a tiger and then I get in a car wreck. I don't want to jump
Yeah.
off of a building. And then I actually talked to someone whose brother did that. I was like, okay, I need to take this seriously. Like, this is serious stuff. We need to be really thoughtful and really mindful and create really, really clean containers. But as my marriage was coming apart, a dear, dear friend of mine was like, how's your marriage? And I was like, oh my God, it is such a dumpster fire. And he said, have you thought about plant medicine? And I was like, at this point, I'm so desperate, I'll try anything. I was in EMDR therapy at the time for some abuse I experienced in my childhood that was showing up in my marriage. Like I was projecting onto my wife stuff that was unhealed. I was in the midst of EMDR therapy. And then I went and I did my first ayahuasca ceremony and had one of the most profound experiences of my life. And I will tell you, I went back to my next EMDR session with my therapist, who was skeptical about the ayahuasca. Okay. But I went back to my next EMDR session. And on the way out the door, she kind of like hit me on the shoulder. She was like, all right, next week should be your last week. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, you did something in the EMDR session I wouldn't have predicted that you to do for months.
Wow.
I've continued to do medicine with work, and that led to opening up around Kundalini and different medicines and different containers. And what I really feel most passionate about is connecting all these social change leaders that I've worked with for decades now and help them try to get off the triangle and help them be in integrity.
Right.
I got this cabin so that I can host retreats,
for
mutual
social
friends.
change leaders.
And my sense on this is like, we don't have time to fuck around with all this stuff that takes too long, you know? And that introduces urgency, and that's me a little bit on the drama triangle. But I feel if we can weave these worlds where there's this really efficient, effective healing modality and community building modality, right?
Right.
With people who have high leverage for making social change in the world, but they're doing it more from their wholeness. So I'm bringing in all the integrity skills, but they're bringing in the healing skills. That's where I feel the most aligned with my purpose and my mission. And it's not my business, it's my calling. Yeah, that's what I feel most passionate
What
about.
did you guys do this weekend?
It was mostly people who lead nonprofit organizations or are doing social change in the world, and people people go deep. People go into their shadow. It's not
Yeah.
pleasant. Very rarely is it pleasant.
Yeah.
And because people are really facing into those parts of themselves that they haven't really been able to be with. There are people here whose sister who had died. There are people here who are just mourning powerful things. And
Yeah.
and then, and then we just turn into little mammal puppy piles and stay up till midnight falling in love with each other and just being in community. And the second night is much more blissful generally for people, although I saw some people work through some very gnarly processes the second night too. And we did some more
Wow.
breath work. It's like a transformational slumber party.
I'm just blown away by you. I just feel alive hearing you talk about this. And I'm so glad you followed that calling all those years ago.
That was another inner calling, was like,
Yeah.
okay, this helped me so much. How can I help
Jeez.
how can I help connect other people with this too?
And what encouragement do you have for leaders right now who are feeling discouraged with everything going on in the world today?
First of all, the earth is billions of years old. The earth's going to be okay, right? Things are going extinct every minute. There's a tremendous amount of suffering, but the earth is going to be okay. The question is, are people going to be okay? And how much damage are we going to cause on everything else, right? In the meantime, I do believe we have the capacity to evolve. And I'm a witness to my own and so many other people's evolution. But I think it happens in community. I do think we need each other as mirrors. We can't see our own shadows. That's why it's stuck in shadow. We need relationships. We need community. We need to find our people. Don't try to do this in isolation. Find your people, be in community. And there's a vulnerability and humility in showing up a community, but that's where the good stuff is, right? You don't have to do it alone. Find your people.
How can people get to know your work and support your work?
I would say the best way to do it would be to actually get on my Substack. I have a Substack that might as well be called Winging It in Meat Suit. It's just where I share these things. And I do monthly free Zoom calls where I invite social change leaders in, and then the most out there medicine healers, polyamory teachers, whatever, witches, shamans. Let's talk. And people are like, wait, what?
Bring these worlds together. I love that.
It's just a free Zoom call. And people are like,
That's
I
fucking
cannot come to
awesome.
this, but I don't know anybody else in this thing. You don't have to do it alone. Find your people.
Yes. Thank you. I love you, Becky. Thank you so much.
I love you too. Thank you for having me. This was so fun. Thank you. Bye.
If you'd like to support the show, the most helpful way would be to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or YouTube or Spotify. It would just be awesome if you could also share an episode that you found helpful with a friend. That would help spread the word about Inner Calling and helps us make the show better for you each time. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a beautiful day.